Hello everyone, and welcome back to the series I like to call Movies That We'll Never See. And tonight, I decided to talk about a very easy target that a lot of people just cannot stand right now, the DC Cinematic Universe. And the first thing I want to talk about is my thoughts on superhero movies specifically. And superhero movies are pretty much their own medium and can have their own forms of genres depending on who the superhero is. And I can admit that at their best, superhero movies are great. I love the Spider-Man movies. I love The Dark Knight. It's a great movie. And I know there are other movies on that list that are good movies. However, they can also be really bad as well. And I don't think I need to give you any examples because everyone already has. So, onto the DC Cinematic Universe. There have been films made with DC characters before, but it wasn't until 2013 that a decision was made to basically copy Marvel and basically have all of the films being interconnected. And they started out with Man of Steel, followed it up with Batman vs. Superman, and then Suicide Squad last year. And I haven't seen any of these movies, and I personally don't plan to. And I've heard really bad things about these three movies. Well, with Man of Steel, people are very split with that movie for some reason. There are people that like it, people that hate it, the people in the middle. It gets a different reaction from a lot of people that you show. But when it comes to those other two movies, they became massively hated movies. With just like you have your die-hard fanboys and a really stupid subsection of them for Suicide Squad. But a lot of people have already complained about why that petition is a terrible idea. You know, the don't listen to film criticism petition. I'm starting to think that whoever wrote that was not thinking straight, and also probably didn't know English well because the person was from Egypt. I'm not saying that all people from Egypt aren't good at writing English. I simply wouldn't know. But when I told my dad that, he was like, yeah, I can understand why it wasn't written properly. So, back to the movies. My biggest issue with the idea of the DC Cinematic Universe is that all they're doing is copying Marvel, where they're trying to make like as many movies as possible, but without getting the right talent and the right care into making quality movies. I mean, I'm not even the biggest fan of superhero movies in general. I have not seen all of the Marvel movies in the cinematic universe. I mean, I've seen a few of them. I mean, I've seen Captain America, I've seen the Avengers and its sequel, but I think that's all I have. I mean, there might be a few that I've missed out. Well, there are plenty that I haven't seen. I mean, is Deadpool in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Or is it its own thing? I can't remember. Someone's going to correct me years from now when this video gets up popularity. Or a time capsule thing. I mean, I'm starting to think my YouTube channel is not going to get popular, but then years later I might wind up doing something that puts me in the spotlight and then people will check back to see this video. So there are a lot of planned movies in the DC Cinematic Universe that feature many different characters. And I'm not saying that movies based off of DC characters can never work. That's obviously a lie, because there have been plenty of movies been made with the Batman characters and their villains, his villains, that have been huge successes when it comes to TV shows and movies and many other things. So there's obviously just a huge issue with the people behind the camera and the people writing the scripts, to where your movies are making so much money, so you can get so many resources, but you're just not doing it properly. At least I wouldn't know because I haven't seen the movies, but I've seen other people's reviews, and they're not saying good things about this so far. And it's either the people at DC need to get a grip on how to make proper movies, and hire the right people to write and direct, because I think that their stars are fine. Like, they're getting talented actors to play the roles, but it's obviously what's going on behind the camera that's the issue. So my recommendation is to start making good movies, DC. Maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe they'll finally make good movies at some point, and then I'll start watching them. But I won't feel inclined to watch the earlier films just because I don't like watching bad movies just to prepare myself for good movies. I mean, if I were to do a Star Wars marathon, I would not rewatch the prequels after I watched the original trilogy. And let's take a slight detour. I am highly against showing the Star Wars movies where you show people the prequels first and then you show them the original trilogy. I mean, I am more or less of the idea to where it's like, watch the original trilogy, and the despecialized edition as well, if you can get a hold of that. Or maybe someday in the future, they'll finally release an actual theatrical cut of the movies that are like mastered in a way that isn't offensive. And then you can follow it up with The Force Awakens and whatever movies are in the sequel trilogy, along with all the other side movies that were made. Now, I don't know how many they're going to make, but yeah. So, DC movies and superhero movies in general, I don't really feel inclined to see all the movies in the cinematic universe. You really should have movies kind of stand on their own, unless they're the interconnected sequels, with the same character. I mean, I'd probably be really happy to see a Deadpool sequel, and I might sit down to see the Captain America sequels, because I heard that those are better than the first one. I think. I'm not sure. I've only heard. And there's a huge issue with capitalizing on making a lot of products when you have a good name. And Disney owns Marvel, but they've done a decent job with it. To where it's at the best they can make really good movies, and at worst they can make only mediocre films, I've heard. I've heard that the biggest unsuccessful film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Thor: The Dark World. But I haven't seen either of the Thor movies, so I wouldn't know. My brother tells me that he couldn't stand the original Thor movie, and I haven't asked why, and I'm not sure if he actually tried watching the sequel. I don't think he wants to either. So he liked the Avengers movie like I did, and I enjoyed the second Avengers movie. I can't really remember it that well, and it was kind of a cluttered mess, or too fast-paced or something, but still a fun movie. Just a fun popcorn flick. And I can't really recall what's coming next with the Marvel movies, but with the DC movies, I don't see any hopes if they're going to keep going at the same speed that they're doing with what they've done so far. I mean, it's like that they have a great title, but there's just nothing behind it. It's Man of Steel, a superhero movie with Superman, of course, and you have your own thoughts about that, if you like it or hate it. Then you have Batman vs. Superman. That sounds like an awesome idea. You actually get Batman vs. Superman. But they found a way to mess that up somehow. I'm not going to know why, because I don't want to find out. And then with Suicide Squad, I actually had hopes with the idea that that movie really could have been good. I mean, it was the concept art looked really interesting. I was willing to give that Jared Leto Joker a chance, but after hearing all the horrible things about how the movie turned out, No, don't want to. I was actually horrified when I saw a lot of those reviews for that movie when it first came out, because I had hopes. Because when you look at the writer-director, it's obvious that studio involvement ruined any chance of him being able to make a proper movie. It was like he had too many guidelines to follow. I think that's what ruined the movie. And I know that I have no leg to stand on because I haven't seen the movie, but you get the idea. My final message with DC: just learn how to make good movies, or they're not going to be remembered well when this all blows over. Because we all know that this cannot last forever. The superhero movies can't last forever. It's eventually, we're in a golden age, but it's eventually going to die down. Like, either people are just going to get sick of it, or they're going to move on to something else. Something else might come out of nowhere and take all the fire. And just think about it that way. Well, I've had enough rambling. Good night, everyone.